Hello, you're watching BTVA's Business Nigeria for Tuesday, October 20th, 2015. I am Tunji Andrews, your host for today's edition of the show. And on today's show, the equities market advances further, gaining over 0.5%, making it the second consecutive day of wins for the week. And the breweries sector will get its fair share of analysis on today's show with ADEGBOYEGA, OLATUNDE, and ABIODUN KERIPE of ELIXIR Investment Partners. But let's kick off with the equities market.
TUNJI, the market closed in positive territory today. The all-share index gained about 0.4% to close at 30,325 points. This takes its week-to-date gaining to be 1.6%. It has completely eroded the loss of 1.1% we saw last week. The gain was seen across the different sectors. Let's take a quick look at the movers in this segment. We have Forte Oil leading the movers chart. We have GT Bank, we have Echo, we have PZ Cousins. I mean, it was caught across the oil and gas sector, that is Forte Oil, and the consumer goods sector, that is Nigerian Breweries, GSK, and PZ Cousin, likewise the banking sector. This was like a key mover in that space. Now let's look at Forte Oil. Forte Oil gained 3.48% today, taking its year-to-date gains to 52%. Did you know, as of today, this is the second best performing stock on the market? I mean, it has outperformed the all-share index, the oil and gas index, the banking index, and all the index across the platform. What is pushing the stock? I mean, it had its Mercury sales and it released this result, which was relatively flat, but hey, I guess we have to ask, where do we see the stock going from today? 320, 350? That's up to you. And now back to my banking index. Out of all the members of this index, only 2 stocks lost. That is the United Bank of Africa and Union Bank. UBA lost about 2.3% after posting relatively strong results, but there was a very strong rally before that result came out. So I guess the market players have priced in this. Likewise, the rather tepid reaction from market players subsequent to a strong performance. And that is it for me, Tuji.
Thanks, Josie. That market has definitely seen its fair share of ups and downs, more downs than ups, actually, shedding about 13% year to date already. That might just be gradually declining. Let's see how long it can keep strong. Monday, Tuesday of gains. Let's see how more that can continue to happen. But we see divergent investment interests. That last week it was the likes of Okomu, Forte Oil, Zenith Bank, and just yesterday we saw the industrials like Dangote Cement, Honeywell, Flour Mill, Berger Paints. Today it's Forte, GT Bank, ETI, PZ Cousins, and a lot more. Biodu Keripe, ELIXIR Investments, Heads of Research and Strategy, will make a little bit of sense of it for us. Welcome to the show, Abiodu.
Thank you, Tunji.
There seems to be no untouchable in this market anymore. I mean, the anchors of our market, the Dangote Cements, the GT Banks, all seem to be topsy-turvy. Today they're up, tomorrow they're down. What exactly is happening with the market?
Pretty much what's happening with the market is just investors basically trying to process and grapple with the muddied macroeconomic environment. If you look back into Nigeria, the Nigerian story, since the start of 2015, we've all said it that the crude oil price is going to impact, an economic performance is going to impact on government revenue. Government revenue is going to be down, which means financing, funding, spending, activity in the overall economy also is going to be down. Take that away from the equation, look at the monetary policy angle. There's been a lot of upswings in that segment also. FX volatility has left foreign investors to pretty much leave the market, which is one of the key catalysts for the market historically. And as we speak, that is not even in the market anymore. So from the start of 2015 up to now, foreign investors pretty much have exited or left the market. And be that as it is, locals really don't have enough muscle or that financial capacity to support the market and leave it where it was those days when we had those foreign players.
So I'm going to quote the Oracle of Omaha, who speaks about the fact that you would want to invest when people are running away from the markets, and you probably want to exit the market when everybody's going into the market. and you want to look at this, that this is the time where savvy investors should be going into the market. But the question is, what should they be looking out for?
Yeah. Savvy investors should be looking or focused more on company performance. Performance that are domesticated, that are local within the economy. The foreign guys, why they left us is because there is FX volatility, illiquidity around FX supply, GDP growth was going to drop, government revenue was dropping. Those were the indicators they focused on. Those were the reasons why they left the market. But the local guys have little worries about FX. You don't need FX to trade local shares. You trade in Naira. So why would you, as a local guy, leave the market because there's FX volatility? The reason why the local guys are not taking up the slack in the market is because of capacity, financial capacity, to the muscle required to contain the sell-off in the market when the foreign guys left. So for me, the local guys need to focus more on company performance, company indicators, which are clearly the strong...
Right, the fundamentals, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put you on the spot. I remember at the beginning of this year, we saw a lot of reports saying that there was going to be a lot of volatility in the first half of the year, and that there'll be a rebound of crude oil prices and the economy in H2 of 2015. And I remember asking a question then, what if it doesn't happen? But right now, looking at the gloomy outlook, macroeconomic indices are very weak. When do you think that rebound is going to be in?
That's $1 million question, but I'll try to do some justice. I can't tell you when there's going to be a rebound. Nobody can clearly pinpoint when there will be a rebound. Why? What are the reasons why the macroeconomic performance is down? GDP growth has dropped to about 2.36 or 2.35% as a Q2 number. First of all, they point to the oil sector performance. So oil price is down, oil production also is really not improved compared to historical level. No one can clearly say when crude oil price is going to rebound back to $100 a barrel. The last I recall, OPEC was looking at about $60 a barrel in 2016.
Wow.
So if that be the case,
we're not looking at, it's not going to happen anytime
It's not going to be
quickly.
anytime soon. And that's why for government, they'll be more focusing on reducing corruption. So, because if the buffer, the main source of revenue is not going to go back to status quo, then they need to look at alternative sources. So reduce corruption, increase tax revenue.
Stay with us at ABIODUN KERIPE. We're still going to talk about so much more concerning the markets, but in a short bit. We're going on a short break right now, and when we return, we'll be talking about more on the markets.
New Cadbury Dairy Milk, Ritz and Lou.
You're watching BTVA's Business Nigeria, and I am TUNJI Andrew. Still with me here is ABIODUN KERIPE of ELIXIR Investment Partners. It's been a gloomy picture for the brewery sector. We see a decline in profitability across board, especially on recent releases, except, of course, Champion Breweries, who posted a 20 million naira gain coming from a year-on-year loss of 883 million naira. Boyega, you have been studying these numbers. What exactly has been happening on the brewery front?
Tunji, basically, the sector has been hit with a trifecta of challenges. Challenge 1 is spiraling input costs. Challenge 2, basically, is spiraling finance costs. And the third challenge is diminishing disposable income and the inability of the companies to pass on those costs to their customers. Basically, before we start answering that question, let's give some type of backdrop to the sector. Nigeria is currently Africa's second largest market in terms of beer production. We currently have 7 quoted companies in that sector, Nigerian Breweries being the largest, Guinness, International Breweries, Champion, Premier Breweries, Just Breweries, and Golden Breweries. In terms of market share, Nigerian Breweries is the clear leader. 70% of the market share is Nigerian Breweries, 24% is Guinness, then you have the others. Now, back to your question regarding what has happened and why have we been seeing declining profitability. Surprisingly, we've seen marginal increases in revenue, nothing spectacular, basically single-digit growth with the exception of Champion Breweries, but across board, you've seen declining profitability. Nigerian Breweries down 8.5, Guinness, Champion, International, with the exception of Champion, all of them were down. And basically that's because input costs, as we've said, are rising. You have financial costs that are also rising. And the company has not been able to pass on those costs to customers.
But we still see that it looks like the cheaper beers are winning the war, basically. I mean, the premium beers used to be the market leaders, but it seems like the cheaper beers are the ones taking the lead these days.
No, the reason why Champion Breweries has been the best performer. Champion Breweries last year raised about 11.6 billion naira in new capital, right? With that, they were effectively able to reduce their finance cost from about 670 million naira to a loss of 670 million naira to a positive of about 11 million naira. So that is what is largely responsible. It wasn't a situation whereby it was fundamentals. It was just a huge reduction in finance costs that was responsible for what we saw in the increase in profitability. You know, across the sector, year to date, up to yesterday, October 19th, prices down. The sector average is down compared to, it's even performed worse than the Nigerian All Shares Index.
If we take this conversation outside Nigerian, market now, look at the global trends in the beer market, there's been a sort of market cannibalization. You see, level of mergers and acquisition taking place. What should we expect in Nigeria? Should this affect
will it
markets?
Trickle down to, your question is, will it trickle down to Nigeria? Interesting point. We have seen the AB InBev SABMiller acquisition, which was for a consideration of about $104 billion, but that's still subject to regulatory approvals. Now, the thing is, the AB InBev and SABMiller alone control about what? 31% of the market, world's market. But in Nigeria, you have Diageo and Heineken. Heineken controls about 9.3% of the global market. Diageo controls about 0.9%. So in between both of them, they control about 10.2%. But guess what? They control about 95% of Nigeria's market. Now, also the challenge that they will probably have, that you would have with that cascading down to Nigeria, is simply this. When SABMiller, first of all, came into Nigeria by acquiring International Breweries and some other small breweries like Pabod and others, what Nigerian breweries probably did in response to that was to acquire a lot of smaller breweries. They acquired Sona, they acquired Life, they ultimately merged with Consolidated. So because the strategy for SABMiller at that point wasn't to ramp up production.
So is it possible that we could just see 2 players on the market?
I doubt that. I doubt that. And the reason why I doubt that, particularly in Nigeria, is this. Are you going to have a combination of Heineken and Diageo in Nigeria alone? No, it has to make business sense for them internationally before they combine locally. So I totally doubt that, in Nigeria, at least. But
we've been seeing costs from this player's been trying to expand to the interlands, where the Goldbergs of this world have been doing a lot of markets, and they see that the distribution chains already exist with the smaller brands. So it makes a lot more sense to buy them up. So we have maybe like 6, 7 breweries in Nigeria. So if you, instead of expanding, it looks like the business model now is to just acquire the distribution chain as
what
it goes.
What Nigerian breweries did was they probably saw it coming and they just said, you know what, what is the strategy for SABMiller coming into Nigeria? Is it to grow organically or to acquire? So let's beat them to the punch. So they acquired a lot of smaller brewers. You know, and by acquiring a lot of smaller brewers, what you do is you now end up forcing them to grow organically. So it would have been easier for them to ramp up production by acquiring Sona, by acquiring Life, by acquiring some others. But guess what? Who are your acquisition targets? They've been acquired by your competitor.
Are you going to be drinking beer tonight?
I would have to ask my wife.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show. ABIODUN KERIPE, thank you very much for joining us on the show. We really appreciate you for being with us. That's ABIODUN KERIPE, ELIXIR Investment Partners, Head of Research. After the break, we take a look at the recent activities in the oil and gas space. We also discuss the liquidity issues in the Nigerian capital market space with NASD CEO BOLA AJOMALE. Do not go anywhere. Tasked with the responsibility of increasing liquidity in Nigeria's capital market, the NASD trades an array of instruments over the counter. The company aims to achieve 50% dematerialization by the end of 2016. How exactly will it achieve this despite the existing challenges of illiquidity in the capital market? BOLA AJOMALE, NASD CEO, joins us to speak about this. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much.
I remember the last time we were talking, we were talking about publicly quoted companies or
all PLCs.
All PLCs, yes, that's the word I'm looking for. All PLCs, the SEC creates in the law that says all PLCs must go through a registered broker participant to be able to trade private placements. And in my mind, I thought at that time that this was going to blow up the OTC market. Has it done that, actually?
Well, yes, it has to a certain extent. But the objective of that rule, first and foremost, was to create some kind of order in the market. So to that extent, it certainly has. The rule says that you cannot hold any public securities that you're holding must trade through a public platform. So what it essentially means is there's a lot more transparency in the system. It means there would always be a reference price for any security you're holding. It also ensures that the only people who are allowed to trade in securities are those who are registered with the SEC themselves. And there's also another layer, a mid-layer of an SRO, a self-regulating organization, that is watching those trades and ensuring that there's order and there's best practice, thereby protecting the investor. So that's really the purpose of that rule. Did it drive securities into the OTC markets? Certainly, because now it is illegal, essentially,
for you to trade,
a PLC outside one of the markets. So you've got the Nigerian Stock Exchange, you've got FMDQ, you have got NASD. And so it's in one of those three markets that you must trade. I think what we have seen as well, is that the three markets that exist almost trade exclusive their instruments. So what trades on NASD does not trade on the other two markets. What trades on NSC probably won't trade on the other two markets as well.
So, but we've been looking at the fact that the SEC has spoken that, it gave a mandate to the NSC to accomplish 100% dematerialization by the end of this year. And you've put a target for yourself to dematerialize 50% by the end of 2016. How far have we gone, and how far do we still have to catch up with?
Well, we started from zero. We started from zero. I'd say 28 months ago. We're now at 15%.
Oh, 15%?
We're at 15% as of now. That's probably a lot more than quite a few other countries have achieved over a longer period of time. Essentially, a lot of people have got shares, and they want the safety. They want the security attached to it, and they also want the ease of transactions that go with it. If you have your shares dematerialized, all you need to do is
just
instruct your broker.
And
you don't need to be there physically.
Exactly.
You're not walking around carrying a piece of paper. And a lot of people want that and are beginning to realize the advantages of it. And so there's a big push towards dematerializing. What we have done in NASD, of the 23 securities that are trading on the platform, we have advised them to get there to dematerialize and send it into CSCS, and most of them are actually working towards it.
But the challenges will still always, I mean, look at the country we live in, there's challenges everywhere. I mean, traffic even coming here was a challenge. But on your side, being the platform to which people can trade on, what have been the biggest challenges in terms of creating more liquidity, getting more companies listed, getting more trades to happen on the market?
Well, so far now, in this year, and again, I guess 0 is always a good number to start from, because that way you can see how far you have traveled. From a 6-month period, in the first 6 months of trade, just to put it in perspective, first 6 months of trade, we had maybe like 20 to 30 transactions. This year, 9 months this year, we've had over 1,600 transactions. Volume this year, we traded about almost 50 billion has been traded, swapped hands on the platform. So slowly the market is growing. And so we tend not to look at the challenges of why aren't we bigger, but we're saying how far have we come and what can we do better?
And asking about how far have you come and what you could do better, none of us thought you would get this far. I mean, well, we did expect that the markets was going to get deep, but I'm thinking 2007, was I thinking that there was going to be an NASD? Was I thinking there was going to be an FMDQ and there was going to be so much trade happening on both OTCs? No, I did not. So how did we get this far this quick?
I think the OTC markets came at the right time, and they also came at a time when there was demand for that particular type of service. NASD has been on paper. It's been alive on paper for maybe 20 years almost, and really it wasn't the right time for us to create that kind of market. However, after the boom of issues that took place in the late 2000s, after the boom and the market crash, then there are a whole lot of people who are holding on to securities, and they want to trade them. And these securities are not on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, and so all they could do was take them to, should I say, unauthorized practitioners to trade. And so they were not really getting the best deal for their investments. Now, what has happened is there's been a public need, there's been a recognized need for these kind of markets, and so we just happen to be the right people in the right place, I guess.
At the right time.
Who have created that market and have enabled it to service the investor. All
right, so you're still going to be with us. We will come back to you in a short while. We have to go to take some market reports from Tosi, but do stay with us, because when we return, we'll be talking more about deepening the Nigerian capital market against all odds. Welcome back. We'll be going to Tosi right now. Tosi, what is on your radar over there? What stocks outperformed your expectations?
TUNJI, the gainers and losers today. I mean, let's start with this. The Nigerian Stock Exchange All-Share Index has been margined to negative 12.5%. So that looks like the gainers for today. We're seeing Transnational at 9.5%. We're seeing GSK at 5.5%. We're seeing PZ Cousin at 4.9%. I mean, I heard that there's improved sales to this stock as the situation in the north is improving, and that is contributing to their revenue line. Also, we've seen Livestock Feeds at 4.85%, likewise Sterling Back at 4.69%. And our losers for today, Vitafoam at negative 5%. This stock is one of the best performing stocks this year, so maybe we're just in a slight correction here. We have Eternal at negative 5%, Mansard Insurance lost 4.85%, Cotix lost 4.8%, and Unilever lost 4.6%. Also on this top losers list, we have Oando. Yet again, it lost 1.8% today, leaving its trading price at 9 naira and 11 kobo. And that is it for the top gainers and top losers for today.
Thank you very much, Tosi. That was quite insightful. Bola AJOMALE is still with us, and we're still talking about the capital market, and we're going to be wrapping this up very quickly. But before you do go, what exactly do you feel should be done?
First part of liquidity, I think, is awareness.
Yeah.
Awareness in terms of the potential of the companies, research, analysis, a lot of information, both from the companies themselves as well as from operators in the market. Once you have information, you can price right. If you do not have information, then someone's going to be doubtful as to the value. Either it's too high or it's too low, and as a result, buyer and seller will not meet.
Not meet, yeah.
So I think information is probably one of the most important aspects. And again, a realization from those who are generating the information that it's not always sellable on day one. Yeah. The information helps in revaluing the market and pricing the market right, and it's only when it's priced right that the investors then follow the information and comment. So that's always what I point out to be the most important.
I know I shouldn't be asking you this because, I mean, but I'm still going to ask anyways. What exactly, which stocks are your favorite ones?
Okay, well, that's a great question and probably an easy one to answer. We'll leave it to the market to decide. But there actually is a point to that, because for the first time ever, the Pearl Awards, which has been around for about 20 years, they're recognized in the OTC markets. And as a result, they have listed some criteria for giving an award to an OTC security. Oh. And so that probably would be my best security. The one that wins the Pearl Awards on the OTC.
It's probably your best.
That's probably the best one, yes.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. We really appreciate you for coming on the show. Thank you for joining us today on Business Nigeria. Remember that you can be a part of the show. You can follow us on Twitter at BTVA Newsroom, and you could hashtag Business Nigeria. Join us again tomorrow as we continue to look at the markets and the economy. Till then, my name is Tunji Andrews. Stay safe.